What's happening, people? And once again, welcome back to youtube.com/CubCanTV for this, another edition of the Cubcast, our daily news section looking at all the latest goings on in and around the world of international music. And I'm very excited for today's edition as we are jumping into another Tracklist tier list. Our new series we are running looking at basically the entire track lists of recently released and previously released album projects and breaking them down track for track, giving you our thoughts on them rather than just doing a long monologue style review. We actually break the tracks down individually and put them into a tier list that we have set up. Now, you can actually give us your views on the tier list yourself, as I leave a link to each individual one in the description down below. Do feel free to tweet me over your thoughts on where each track should go on the listing. But today, we're getting into a very exciting one. We all seen that, obviously, Asake has released a brand new project, and that is, of course, Mr. Money with the Vibe. This is a project that I've absolutely adored breaking down in individual reactions, whether that be the tracks that were released prior to the album or the sort of rush we've had since last Thursday. Also, the mini mix we put together. I think this is an outstanding project. Considering there's only 12 tracks on there, I think it's mad how impactful each and every one is and how impactful it's actually been already as an overall project, to the point where tracks are already making their way into that Afrobeats Billboard chart within 4 or 5 days, which it normally takes a couple of weeks for them to circulate in. So this is an album that is doing a lot right now. So we're going to jump into this. As you can see on screen, we have 4 different categories that the tracks can actually go into. They can either be in banger, solid, good, or filler. Now, I can safely say from the jump there are no filler tracks on this project. If there were filler tracks on a 12-track album, I'd be slightly worried about what's going on, but there are no filler tracks on this project, which is really cool to see. And yeah, overall, it's a pretty outstanding project, so we're going to break down each track individually from now, opening up with track number 1, which is, of course, Dull. Now, Dull for me is going straight into solid. This is an orchestral look at everything that Asake brings to the table. I absolutely love what Asake does in regards to his sort of I want to say instrumental structuring. You always hear those kind of unusual cello sounds. You always hear the strings in general. You always hear that kind of rolling bass level in there. You always hear that sort of amapiano infused style. You also always hear that choral backdrop. And these are all things you hear in this tune without the drums and without the rhythm. And they still have a really powerful impact. And I think personally that's a really cool thing to do. It's cool to strip back certain elements and get experimental with things and see just how far you can push the formula. And I think it's a wicked way to open up the project as well, showing that it's not all about the rhythms, which some people have accused Asake of being, and he definitely isn't. There's no getting away from that. He definitely is not. Coming up, track number 2 then, Organize. Now, this for me was a track I was so pleasantly surprised with, and that is going straight into banger for me. I love the vocal on this. That sort of there's something really catchy about the simplicity of that melody. Again, the overarching theme of this one is back to that percussive intricacy. It's all about the bounce, and it's all about just how vibrant you can make a shorter tune as well. A big thing about this project is a lot of the tracks are a little bit shorter, but all of them have a really high level of impact, and Organize is a great way to actually start kicking things off. We then move into a track following on from this, which is obviously one of the ones released prior to the album dropping, and that is Peace Be Unto You, and there is no getting away from it. That goes straight into the banger category as well. When this landed, the euphoria this tune was creating is incredible. I want to say that the appreciation that Asake got for this tune, also T.G. Amori on the video, this was just so different, so out there. This is when he really let those choral elements loose. You heard the cellos in there as well, and it was beautiful to see just how much people appreciated this tune. Incredibly well produced, incredible bounce, incredible vocal lines. And more than anything else, the vocals are super captivating, which I really did enjoy, and it's been great to see just how much this one's been appreciated. And still, with the album dropping, it's in that category, so there we go. Moving on to the next one, Dupe. This one is going straight into good for me. Very euphoric. A lot of saxophone lines going on with this one. Although the transitions on the tune are slightly more difficult to follow than the previous tracks, the entire feel of this album tends to be about smoothness in transition a lot of the time. It's a big running theme. The shorter tracks with smooth transitions, so it feels like a lot more's happening. I feel with this one, it's definitely still in that good tier. Don't get me wrong, it's not a filler tune by any means, but I don't think it quite hits the transitional exceptional brilliance of dull, organised, or peace be unto you. So that's why it's going into that good category. Muse comes next. Now, Muse for me is going into the solid category as well. I love the bounce on this one. The minimal percussion is exceptional as well. The little intricacies you hear from the percussive layerings on this do definitely help it drive forward and give it that extra sense of rhythmic majesty. The vocal direction Asake takes as well, with that sort of back and forth we hear between him and the choir, is also fantastic. Again, it's creativity around 4 or 5 themes that run throughout the project, and it's utilizing them and switching them and chopping and changing them without them losing what they're supposed to be about. And again, this album is a demonstration of mastery, in my honest opinion, about those ideas. We then hear Joha. Now, Joha for me is going into the good category, but it's going into the top of the good category. Again, this one's all about lively drum work, and it's excellent in that regard. The choral backing is powerful, and you can hear those typical kind of Fuji and Amapiano elements fused together, but they are a lot quicker than we were expecting. It doesn't necessarily explode like the other tracks, and the transitions again aren't quite as smooth, but it definitely still has that impact because it is a lot quicker, and again, it shows experimentation within the project, and utilizing those initial ideas and getting as much from them as you can, which I'm always a big fan of in albums. Utilizing ideas is such a cool way of working. And Zaza comes next. Again, this one is going into good, and it's going to go into that category there. Unexpected switch-ups run this one entirely, because it is a lot slower than the other tunes, and the elements are almost chopped and screwed and slowed down, but in the context they feel slightly warped, I feel, as the other tracks utilize the elements at a much faster pace. I think actually if this was to be a tune that landed as a standalone, so not part of an overarching project or overarching album, this one would be outstanding. But the fact we hear it in the context of the album, which is how I try to do these lists, it feels ever so slightly warped. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it's still in the good category. It's definitely not a filler tune, and it definitely holds a place on the project. Maybe this is a tune that will actually go up in my recommendations. At the moment, I'm loving just how vibrant a lot of Asake's work is. This one is slightly outside that sphere, but still a very, very creative piece of work nonetheless. A Toto comes next, and this one is going straight into the solid section for me. All about the bass line on this one. The dip and weave of the vocal arrangements is awesome, and it constantly keeps you on your toes as well. You're going from one section to another and switching between. And the same with the string breakdowns and the choral backdrops as well. They're constantly all interchanging. Those themes, big bass lines, string lines, choral backdrops. These are the 3 things that are so apparent on this project that get utilized and switched around in different ways. And I think, again, it goes to show that there are no filler tracks on here, but the majority of the tracks are solid or above. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it anyway. Reason. Now, this is the first time on the project, despite what I've just said, that I've been a little bit unenthused about the concept more than anything else. I like Russ, don't get me wrong, but I think to me it's a collab that didn't really make sense. His vocal doesn't sound as comfy as it could have been, but overall it does just about work. It definitely kind of is on the fringes of being a little bit like it's being forced into play for me. And again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm very keen to see your track lists and your kind of tier lists on this as well. As I said, I leave a link to it in the description down below. Do tweet me yours and let me know. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason featuring Russ, for me, it just didn't really work. It felt like an unnecessary extra to an extent, but it's not necessarily filler because it still holds a place and still does a job of the storytelling of the album. For me, I don't know. I don't necessarily think its collaboration is exceptional. And the majority of this album is exceptional. So that's kind of how I'm thinking. But there we go. What are we going? Terminator is next, and Terminator is actually right at the top, and I completely missed it. But Terminator does go into solid for me. Again, top of solid. Again, this one is just outside that range of banger for me. It's obviously a very, very big tune. I think this is one that with time, I actually said this in the reaction video we did, I think with time, this is a tune that is going to slowly penetrate my eardrums more and more, and it's slowly going to become more and more normalized, and this is what is so good about Asake. He puts you in a zone where you're not expecting what's happening, but very quickly it becomes normalized to our ears, and that's exactly what I think is going to happen with this one over time. But yeah, wicked tune nonetheless. And we then get into 2 more bangers. They are both going into bang. I'm going to say it straight away. Sunmomi, for me, is the strongest new track on this project. I think the arrangement on this one is top tier. I think it's actually generational, how good this tune is. The fact that cello line is so apparent running throughout that sort of middle bridge section. I think the fact the vocals are actually quite minimal. This is a tune all about production, if we're being entirely honest. And Asake pretty much just toasts it. He basically kind of hosts the tune tune, wraps it up with a few additional vocal sprinkles, but overall this is a tune about the production value, and this for me was a tune that blew me away. This is one of my favourite releases of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. Check out our reaction to this one on the channel. But yeah, without a doubt that's in there. But there's no getting away from it. The biggest tune on the album is, of course, the Sungba remix. The original Sungba, of course, is on Olamide, not the Olamide's EP, Asake's EP, which came out earlier this year. And there's no getting away from it. The Sungba remix is an incredible tune. It spent the majority of, I think it hasn't ever dropped out of the US Billboard Afrobeats Top 50, which we do a review on each and every week, so we see it in there every week, and it's crazy just how good this tune is. There's no getting away from it. It's a beautifully arranged tune, and I just love the fact more than anything else you do get to hear an enthused Burna Boy verse on there. And again, Asake is in a position now where he can get pretty much any collab he wants out of this Afrobeat sound. I'd be very interested to see who he goes to when those international collaborations start rolling in, which is why I was a little bit disappointed with the Russ one. I just felt like it was there for the sake of an international collaboration to an extent, rather than being the next kind of level up. But it's still a good tune. It's just not in comparison. When you look at that top four of Sungba, Sunmami, Organize, and Peace Be Unto You, that's what you're fighting against, you know. That's what you're having to compare yourself to as a tune. So I definitely think that's why I've put it as low as I have. But there we go, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this track list, tier list in the comment section down below. What would you change? But also, I'd love for you to make your own versions of this and send me over the screenshot. I leave a link to this actual chart in the description down below, so you can go and do it yourself. Screenshot it, send it over to me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm keen to see what you guys think. And as always, friends, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, do make sure you are getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right hand side of the page, turning notifications on, of course, leaving a like, leaving a comment, and all of that good stuff. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and we shall see you all next time. Peace.
Sounding so good right now, but they're sounding a bright and town.
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now, Cam TV. Stay locked.